Hello, I'm Joel.
And I'm Alex.
Welcome to the Commander's Journey, the place where we discuss our favorite format of Magic, Commander, from the perspective of a new player.
And an experienced one.
And this journey is for new Magic players interested in Commander. So we were just having some conversation here right before the podcast. Don't mind me, I'm going to have a few more snacks.
People love eating on podcasts. That's their favorite thing to hear, Joel.
Exactly what I was trying to do. No, we were just talking because we're doing all these episodes, these top 5 episodes, and I don't know much about the background and the story. And I was thinking, as I love fantasy stories, so I was asking Alex about them. Where do I start? What books should I read if I want to know anything about the lore of Magic, the Gathering?
And just so everyone knows, I'm not a true Vorthos, which is the term for someone who's really into the Magic lore.
Would you say Borthos?
Vorthos with a V is the name of the term. But it's basically, I started with, once the free stories became really common on the website, I think the free stories started in Theros block, the original one. And then from there, I would just, whenever I get some slowdown at work, whenever we'd find a moment during the day, I would, maybe catch up on those week's stories or a couple weeks behind, depending on when that time came. And my recommendation, Joel, for where you want to start with the story.
What book should I start with?
I recommend starting, because this is when I think it starts ramping up to get really good, is Magic Origins.
Okay.
And they're free online not really ebooks. They're like article stories where each chapter is as a single web page on the story, and you go and there's 10 per set. Mm-hmm. I think Magic Origins have 5. But that kind of gives you the backgrounds for a lot of the stories as they move into Battle for Zendikar and stuff like that.
You were saying there's this story is really good too, called Fate Reforged.
So the set was Fate Reforged. During that, the specific story, and I could not remember the name of it, but it was about Alesha who smiles at death, which is a card, and her story is kind of like a standout from that time. Mm-hmm. Of this is a really good Magic story. It's really well written. But I was specifically saying read that one, and then read the Magic Origins through, in my opinion, Dominaria. Dominar, it starts getting a little not as good. Mm-hmm. The fall off starts happening, but I think there's enough still going there that I enjoyed it.
Okay, in those stories, can you find them on Magic's website?
Yep, that's exactly where you find them.
Sweet. So I thought that would be interesting. I think I'm going to start reading some of those.
Well, they're fabulous. And again, just don't rush through them. Just when you find a moment, you say, hey, I want to listen to some or read some Magic story, let's do it.
Yeah, just for fun. Yeah, because we were also talking about how, especially for me, half the fun of Magic is the creativity part of it, building your own decks, looking at all these cards, reading the cards, looking at the awesome artwork. It's fantastic work that Wizards have put into this game. So we're going to talk today about the top 5 budget white board wipes. We've been going through top 5 and all the different colors and what they do the best. And in white, board wipes by far, they're great at.
Exactly. And you can find board wipes or some variation of board wiping in all the colors. Sometimes they're a little funkier than others, but white's definitely the color that's known for its board wipes.
Exactly. So let's start with what? Let's start with number 5.
Sounds good. And just so everyone knows too, specifically, and we ran into this during almost every one, but your deck's going to want certain things. Mm-hmm. And we ran into it a lot with the black episode. But for the white one right here, your deck is going to be slightly different depending on what its needs are. You might, our number 2 or 3 might be fantastic in a vacuum, but when you look at it as a whole in your deck, you might have another variation of a board wipe. That's a lot better.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind that there's also specific other board wipes you'll find in white and or different colors that are more synergistic with maybe your commander or maybe what you're trying to do strategically. Even this first one, number 5, and I think one of my decks is very strategic. So
sounds good. It is Phyrexian Rebirth. It's 4 white and white for a sorcery. It says destroy all creatures, then create an XX colorless horror artifact creature token, where X is the number of creatures destroyed this way.
Yeah, and I think that came standard in my Geared C19 deck. and it just synergizes so well with that because you want to. This effect typically you want to do a board wipe when you're seeing one or more people across from you just getting crazy, and you cannot handle what's on the board. You want to just wipe the board, start kind of from scratch, and this one allows you to put a big horror creature token on the battlefield, right? Which is great for certain decks.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. By different decks wanting different things, this jumps to the number one slot in the geared deck where it wants to make the new big artifact token. This is everything the deck wants to do, and then a board wipe on top of it. It just goes to show you how much it changes depending on what your deck wants to do.
Exactly. So number 4, and keep in mind these are also all budget options too. So I mean, there's a bunch of other. There might be better versions of all these different topics we're talking about, but they could be quite expensive for your pocketbook. All these are affordable, like
exactly
$2 and under.
$2 and under. All of these at the time of recording were $2 and under. So, and some of these I think are criminally underplayed. I think at $2, I mean, I would play them happily alongside the best board wipes in the game. So, there you go.
There you go. So number 4 is Cleansing Nova. It's 3 white and white for a sorcery. It says choose one, destroy all creatures, or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. And that's really awesome because of the flexibility of it too, right?
Exactly. We've talked about that flexibility before. This is showing it just as perfect, and it came out recently. It is really a fantastic pick for any deck.
Yeah. So if you have a creature-heavy deck, maybe you want to use the destroy all artifacts and enchantment side because people on the other side of the board might be heavier in that, and that'll give you that edge. Or if you're not a creature deck and you're trying to do other things, you can use the destroy all creatures. And for 5 CMC, that's really good.
Exactly. That's literally one more than Wrath of God, which is the go-to example for a board wipe. And this is so one more, you gain that flexibility and to take out artifacts and enchantments when needed. And I think that's really worth it, yeah.
That's really good.
So we'll move on to our number 3, and their number 3 is a personal favorite of mine. I think this is one of those ones that also gets criminally underplayed. It is Descend Upon the Sinful. It's 4 white and a white for a sorcery. Exile all creatures, and then it also has Delirium, which means if, and actually I'll just read the whole thing, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. So that can be easier to hit than others, and that's fantastic when it does, but a mono white exile all creatures is what I'm really looking at there.
Yeah, and with this new set coming out, there's a lot of exile effects that are important. And when you exile, and then just for new players, I had to learn the difference between destroy and exile. When you destroy something, it goes to the graveyard, and a lot of people have ways to recur that. With exile, you're eliminating those cards from the game from here on out. They cannot be replayed.
And it gets around indestructible. It gets around a lot of effects that will keep the creature around. And I mean, it's mono white exile, which I think there's only 2 board wipes that do it, and this is the budget version.
There you go. And our number 2 is a really good card. It's called Rout. It's 3 a white and a white for a sorcery. You may cast Rout as though it had flash if you pay 2 more to cast it. Destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. So that's awesome because these board wipes are very commonly sorceries, including this one. But if you pay that extra cost, you can basically cast it as an instant at any point.
It's absolutely fantastic. You look at it, it's either a 5 mana board wipe that can't be regenerated. Again, pretty standard fare. But again, the flexibility, what makes it so good that there's the 7 mana variant. And trust me, a board wipe at instant speed is scary. Holy cow, is it scary.
Oh yeah, especially if it's in Commander, it could take a while before it comes back around to your turn. If people are doing things that are scary on the other side of the board, you really need to you need to do something right away.
Exactly, and it'll get around things that other cards won't just because you can cast it instant speed. Plus, worst case scenario is you can maybe cast it instant speed right before your turn starts, and then you have an open, clear board to do whatever you need to with if you have some haste creatures to take advantage of it.
And just also to clarify for newer players, because this is a podcast that we want to focus on all of us new players playing the game. When you destroy all creatures and they can't be regenerated, that just means during that part of the turn, they cannot be regenerated. It doesn't mean that when the next turn happens, they can't be recurred, like somebody can't pull them out of their graveyard.
Specifically, regeneration means the mechanic regenerate.
Yeah.
And all that means is there is a lot of card that this is an old style of play, an old line of thinking that used to exist in a lot of Magic cards that basically said they cannot be regenerated, and it was because a lot of effects used to happen in Magic which had the regenerate keyword, which said, I can tap this instead of it being destroyed. And so when you try to destroy it, they'd tap their thing, they'd activate the regeneration, and it would be fine. It wouldn't hit the graveyard. What this says is you cannot get around that with this. It does not have anything else to do with, though. You can bring it right back if you wanted to. You just can't regenerate through it.
You just cannot use the regenerate mechanic.
Yes.
On your cards. There you go. All right.
On to our number one. This one's I also think is a fantastic one. Really, our top three especially I think are great, though all of them are fantastic.
The artwork on this top one is really nice, too.
It is fantastic. It's a newer one, too. Our number one is Hour of Revelation. It's 3 white, white, white for a sorcery that says Hour of Revelation costs 3 less to cast if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. And it says destroy all non-land permanents.
Wow. In Commander, that's going to be most of the time. There's going to always be 10 non-land permanents.
And for 3 mana, holy cow, that's a steal.
Wow. Yeah, so it costs 3 less, so you just have to have 3 white mana in order to cast that if there's 10 or more.
And again, there just seems to be 10 or more non-land permanents. That includes their mono rocks, that includes any enchantments into play. All artifacts, all planeswalkers, if that's a worry. This gets rid of planeswalkers. This gets rid of all non-land permanents for 3 mana. And literally the hardest part about it is the fact that it's 3 white, white, white. It's the white mana pops.
3 white mana pips, yeah.
Yeah. But man,
well, in mono white, it's incredible.
Oh, mono white's insane. But
mono
even
white
on other
turn
colors,
3, you're going to cast it.
if you can make that work out for your mana base, I mean, that's literally the biggest hurdle there. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know why everyone isn't jamming in this deck. I have a few in mind, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't have that in my tasted deck.
I have never paid more than I've only ever paid the 3 white for it ever. I've never paid full price because by the time I want to cast it, there's 10 on.
That's true. It's not usually turn 3 or 4 you're wanting to cast a board wipe. It's usually like turn 8 or 9. You're like, oh crap! If I don't cast a board wipe, I'm gonna die.
Game's over. And again, you have plenty of mana to do stuff afterwards.
So there you go. Those are top 5 budget board wipes in white. These cards are incredible. If you don't not already using them, start using them. You don't have to spend a ton of money to use all these different effects in Commander.
If you were to take the top 3 out of here and jam it into your deck, you'd pay less than $6 for the 3 of them, and you'd be off to the races pretty much at the top tier level board wipe place. Yeah.
There you go. And always keep in mind to keep looking. That's part of the fun too, is that look for those ones that are synergistic as well. So these are going to be incredible and great in most situations, but with those certain commanders and those certain strategies, you're going to want to look for other specific types of board wipes. But there you go, our top 5 budget white board wipes.
See you.